Yo, what's good? We're back with another one.
It's showtime.
Oh, don't mind me while I blow your freaking mind for a second. I am about to put you on to one of the most incredible and transformational things you will ever listen to in your life. So this is the Telepathy Tapes by Kai Dickens, and it explores the cases of telepathic abilities within the most incredible group. It is individuals who are autistic and nonverbal. Now I'm going to be doing a 4-video deep dive, but I want to give you guys the spark notes of it. So Kai was first introduced to the phenomenon of telepathy within nonverbal autistic individuals through a podcast that was featuring Dr. Diane Powell, who is a neuropsychologist that came from Johns Hopkins, and I believe she's at Harvard now. They talk of the tens of thousands of cases of mothers who think, my child can read my mind. But a lot of them don't bring it up because they just think they're crazy, or other people will think they're crazy. But they're not, and it's an incredibly common experience. So on the podcast with Dr. Powell, they set up these experiments with insane control. It's crazy, it's crazy. They'll take someone like the mother, they'll put them in a room, they'll give them this random number generator, or they'll show them pictures. The other room, a child will be blindfolded. After the mother is shown something, the child will be told that they can take off the blindfold and then they can type into an iPad what they saw. These kids, they never miss. They never miss. They see through their mother's eyes. They hear what she's thinking.
That can't be right.
Trust me, bro. It's happening.
My son said to me, I can hear thoughts. And I said, impossible. And he said to me, you don't get the kind of gifts that I have if you lie.
Let's please multiply 2 numbers and see if he gets it.
Okay, what is it?
9, 0, 0. Unbelievable. 1.
Maybe shovel again, Dr. Powell. Oh.
+2. So he got the plus.
I was wondering, because I was looking at the two the whole time when I saw his hand going somewhere else.
What is this phenomena happening? Why are his mind and my mind completely connected?
I knew that a lot of people would think, boy, Diane's gone off the deep end.
But that's the risk any scientist takes when they challenge the current paradigm.
Joining us today to shed some light, Dr. Diane Powell.
I'm working with children who have been reported by a parent to be able to read their mind.
The data was so compelling and accurate that I had to follow it, even though I knew I was risking my scientific reputation.
I started testing them and I found that they were exceedingly accurate.
What is the next number?
3.
After the medical board took my license away, I had to prove my sanity. And once I did, I said, I'm going to prove that ESP is real.
Dr. Tarrant, he's done these QEEG scans to see what's going on.
The biggest overall finding is really this increase of activation across all the brain waves. If there was no change, I would definitely be skeptical.
If you can show a consistent pattern, particularly from kid to kid, that's how science changes. You cannot fake this.
We want answers like, where does it comes from?
I want to know how and what are we supposed to do?
We can't all be crazy.
We are far more powerful than we can imagine, and the implications are huge for humanity and the planet.
This is crazy.
You ain't seen nothing yet, bro.
The moment it comes here, it goes there.
Just do, okay, multiply 2 numbers really quick. Maybe start from scratch.
Okay, what is it?
9, 0, 0.
That's awesome.
3.
1. Maybe shovel again, Dr. Powell.
So he got the plus, too.
I was wondering, because I was looking at the two the whole time when I saw his hand going somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay, there's no way she can see you?
Why?
Excellent.
Mate, what the fuck is going on?
They're using telepathy, bro.
Have you listened to the Telepathy Tapes?
No.
You haven't?
I haven't listened to it.
It's a new podcast that's out. And it's all about this scientific research that was done with nonverbal autistic kids and their parents. And they were able to go into another room and they would bring up things to one, whether it was, I think they would bring things up to the mom or the mom would say things. The kid was accurate 95% of the time.
Wow.
With numbers, with colors.
Yeah.
Like like 3 numbers in a row.
Yeah.
Like, you know how crazy that is, just to guess 3 numbers in a row 95% of the time?
Yeah.
Like, whatever it is, they think it's real. I'm only on episode 2. So, but it's really fascinating, man, because it's a dismissed thing. It's a woo-woo thing.
Sure.
But if it's real, shouldn't scientists study it like it's real? And it seems like through scientific study, it's real.
Yeah. I think it's definitely, you've probably experienced it. I've experienced it.
I think it's an emerging part of human consciousness that we don't agree to, or we don't admit to. Like, we know there's something there, but we're not like, that's too silly. It's just, there's so many people that fake it. That's the problem.
Right.
Because everybody like wants to have some special thing that they have.
Yeah, but how do we know the tests were legit?
Tried to set them up. She was a skeptic, bro.
You've just done an amazing job of documenting these autistic, in many cases nonverbal children who display telepathic powers, which I can't believe I'm even saying, but you show that this is, occurring in statistically significant ways.
What picture am I looking at now? Okay, that's you. Say it. Sun. Okay, what is this? You see, I'm not even looking at him. Yeah.
You have a Harvard-trained neuroscientist, Dr. Diane Powell, doing the studies, but you also, seem eminently, normal and not, insanely woo-woo.
I needed to believe it was happening. And so I asked Diane, can I do my own tests where I bring the cues and pick the house? I didn't want her to be a factor in it, so I wanted to control the tests.
I don't want Dr. Powell to bring this stuff. I don't want families to bring this stuff. I just want to be like the layer for the skeptics where it's like, get this on Amazon. I'm not even going to open it until the day up.
And she said yes, and I said, I'd like it to be a family we haven't tested yet, that you've never met. I just wanted to clear out any of the possible factors that could influence this.
Told you, bro. It's legit.
Yeah, this is unbelievable.
That's kind of how it began. We brought this young girl, Mia, up from Mexico, and we took all the mirrors down and all the TVs down and put up cameras every which way and started the process of testing her. And with a divider that would go between her and her mother, we'd blindfold Mia and then show her mother a random number generator, a random picture generator. I brought flashcards, colored balls. We did various tests, and she was right every time.
Hay un personaje en la página 26. U, I, A,
The tests were remarkable. I mean, just hearing her say without fail what's in her mother's mind, it's just, I don't know, it's so amazing. And then hearing the earnestness of her parents as well, where it's like, these people clearly are not lying.
This is mind-blowing. I thought all telepathics were grifters.
It's something bigger than telepathy, bro.
Akil's mother, Manisha, kept telling me, look, this isn't just telepathy. This is a shared consciousness. There's some sort of merging that goes on. And she was saying things which I couldn't quite understand yet in my process, which was she felt, he often will maybe use my hardware or my neurology. Then I thought, oh, what? Just really wanting to understand. And so she kept showing me when I was doing little tests, like, okay, and actually I love this because I had the crew write a bunch of random words, and I downloaded a random number generator on the spot again, random word generator. We did all this stuff with Akil, and Manisha was kind of like, come on, this is like kid stuff. Like, let me show you really what this is. And so after I was satisfied with, we must have done 100 tests that day. She was like, okay, now you write a word. So I wrote a word and he'd start saying it verbally, he can kind of communicate through words, or he'd start spelling it. And she'd be like, now cross it out and start writing another one. And in the midst of crossing it out, the second it's crossed out and you start even thinking about the next one, he'd start writing the next one. And that's where she's like, do you see what I mean?
They really need to start studying this.
Come on, bro. The CIA have been studying it for years.
One of the reoccurring things that comes up when they talk to all of these various children, does not matter where they are in the world, they talk about something they call the Hill. It is a place where they can all send their consciousness and talk to other children with the same abilities, other people with the same abilities. The podcast talks about a kid from Georgia who was best friends with a kid from Utah, and how they would talk every single day by going to the Hill. Here's some of the things that they wish the world would know. Number one, that they know things. They know things that they can teach us, but no one will listen. Other quote that was incredible is they said, in my world, we don't speak, we communicate through our eyes. Another said, audible speakers, us, we only see one side of the story. There's so much to it that we don't know.
They're seeing into another dimension, bro.
Or exiting the simulation.
It took me a long time to form my opinion or understanding of the Hill, and I don't want to say a belief in it, but maybe it was a belief in it. It was just so hard to believe, you know? And then there's so many people from disparate places talking about the Hill. One was a minister I met at a mega church. I didn't meet him in person, but I talked to him on the phone, and his name is Joe. And he was saying that some of his kids in his youth group were talking about the Hill. He runs like a special needs youth group. And would talk, they'd set them up with like other non-speakers in other places, and the kids would talk about the Hill. You know, and then I met a teacher in Chicago, and her kids were talking about the Hill. And it's just phenomenal.
This is incredible.
They can do a lot more than just communicate, bro.
They show examples of extraordinary cases of savantism, like a girl who knows dozens of languages without ever being taught. A boy who can instantaneously solve the most complex math equations because he sees them in colors. Many of the children have photographic memories and can recall complex data because they experience it. It can touch books and immediately know the content. I'm not kidding. So why does this matter? This is Kai Dickens, by the way. Number one, it's going to show you the limitations that you put onto your own consciousness. Or two, it's going to expand your ideas of what consciousness is. And three, when you're done listening, you are going to see what I've been making content about, that we are living in a simulated reality or a holographic reality. This is not base reality. This is not what is real. It feels real, I get that. But there is a base that is more real, and you can tap into it.
See, we're in a simulation.
We're not, bro. It's another dimension.
You know, when Maura was kind of first starting to understand that Amelia was in there, again, it was homeschooling, and she discovered that Amelia was in there and could spell, and then that she could read her mind, and then that she was seeing stuff that Maura, the mother, couldn't see. She could see spirits and ghosts, and then she started saying that she knew other languages, and she could identify hieroglyphics and knew Hebrew and Portuguese and Spanish. And
so remarkable.
Yeah.
Allie showed Amelia some Hebrew, and Amelia read it and translated it. So Allie showed her again today, and Amelia typed out what it meant. I said, but who taught you Hebrew? And she typed the rabbi. Then I asked if there was anything else she could read. She wrote hiero. I said, hieroglyphics? And she wrote, yes, pictures. So Allie pulled up a few letters, and we showed them to Amelia, and she knew what letters they were written in hieroglyphics. And they were ones that they hadn't looked up the meaning of yet. They just pulled them up and identified them after. Allie asked her if she saw these letters before, if it was the first time, and she wrote first time. I asked her who told her about hieroglyphics, and she said the God told.
And hieroglyphics part.
I know. I know.
It's past lives, bro.
Or other times you're in the simulation.
It has to do with them being less tied to their body. They're less bound to the physical world than us. And so they're more open to the things that I think are natural. They're not supernatural. They're what surround us, but they have an easier access to it.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, in virtual reality and in lucid dreaming, which you could think of as its own sort of weird simulation, seeing your hands is this like really important test for your ability to embody in the bound simulation. And so they often feel a little disembodied, or like they're not quite, sensing their own bodies.
Yeah.
And I think the normal, conventional view is, oh, that's handicapped. But in fact, there's a filtering or a reduction going on a greater understanding when you are embodied and when you are in the simulation. Yeah. And so being able to dip outside of that simulation is a profound, amazing skill.
I think the simulation's either completely digital or some sort of biological digital hybrid.
We're not in a simulation, bro.
I'm a big fan of this transmission theory of consciousness. So like William James, Aldous Huxley, they would say the mind is probably more like a radio than like it's just like locally producing consciousness. And if you have a radio and it's playing Vivaldi's Four Seasons or something, you could take out the capacitor or the battery or mess with the antenna and it would stop playing the music. And you could say, oh, those parts, that hardware is responsible for the music. Mm-hmm. But in fact, you would have to understand, electromagnetism to know that it's tapping into a frequency that's playing this beautiful music. Mm-hmm. I think it's the same with brain injuries where, you mess with Broca's area and speech gets shut down, or you mess with Wernicke's area and reading comprehension, whatever, occipital lobe for vision. Mm-hmm. But how that's all binding together and playing the beautiful music, the Vivaldi's Four Seasons of like everyday life, is just irreducible. Yeah. And we're probably tapping into something.
I've said this before, but I think when you're improvising on the instrument and you're in a flow state, or anything that puts you in that state, you're actually tapping into something.
You are, bro. It's God.
His first ever independent sentence was the most mind-blowing, miraculous thing.
So what was his first sentence?
God is a good gift giver.
He was saying that, he was communing with the king with angels. He said he was going to heaven.
How do you know that? And he spells A-U, and I'm thinking he's going to spell autism or something. He goes on to spell A-U-N-T-I-E. Auntie told an angel to tell me. Auntie was my great aunt, and she died at age 89. Josiah, as far as I know, had never heard us talk of Auntie. He wouldn't have known Auntie. He wouldn't have seen pictures of Auntie. How did he know Auntie?
He knew things about a past relative, Auntie, that, and was communicating for Auntie. And I think about Dr. Ian Stevenson from the University of Virginia. He was studying past lives in children. And when he went to India and he was like, I'm trying to prove, past lives. They're like, well, why are you trying to prove that? We already know it's real, And so I think that's, I'm not making a comment on reincarnation. I'm just saying, like, I think that's the same idea, is that we're trying to prove something that is just part of our being. It's not paranormal, it's normal.
It's super normal. Yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah, it's like with the whole UFO disclosure conversation. You go to South America or something and they're like, yeah, we talk to star people all the time. We have, rituals that involve them.
I told you, bro, they're seeing into another dimension.
Yeah, I'm going to have to listen to this podcast.
I mean, this is like what she's doing, what's doing with her son is like forbidden, It's like, because, the people that actually, the Speech Therapist Association basically says that, spelling is, an RPM, these different methods that use, pointing to letters as a, considered a form of communication that, that it's not recognized.
Why is that? It's so absurd. Why is it not recognized?
I'm the wrong person to ask. I mean, it's political. Yeah, if
a kid is able to point at letters and spell something out, why is that not seen as a valid form of communication, especially if cogent sentences are coming out on the other side of that?
It really surprised me that it really is that's controversial.
If someone was guiding the kid's hand, I could see how this would be questionable, but they're not.
They've been trying to stop it since Braille.
When Louis Braille was at the first school for the blind in France, he kind of like enhances this old military kind of coding, and he came up with this idea for Braille. And when a new headmaster came into the school, he was like, this is pseudoscience, this isn't real. He locked away all the Braille books. You can't learn this way. And the kids were like, no, this is really great. And they were doing it, in private. But the authorities didn't want Braille to become a thing. And when the kids first tested, showed the authorities, look, I will punch out these letters and this one will read it, and they kind of proved that Braille is working, people in the room watching that was like, it's a magic trick. It's a joke.
Wow.
They obviously practiced this in advance.
Yeah.
And so I was reading the history of Louis Braille and thinking, this is exactly what the non-speakers are going through. So it makes you wonder why? Why have we always, the reigning, communication class has such strict views and restrictions over how someone else can communicate?
I don't think it was a conspiracy, Ted. People just didn't believe it.
Trust me, bro. It's the CIA.
Everyone who's working in an intimate way with a non-speaker, at least that I've met, I can't obviously have a huge broad brush, but every single person I've met with, and hundreds of people emailing now with their stories, is that to work intimately with a non-speaker is to be able to beautifully see the worlds they can access, the realms they can access, which me saying something like that 2 years ago would have made me laugh out loud, that I'd be on an interview talking about realms. They can access realms that we can't access.
Yeah.
They can see beings that we can't, whether, I think some will call them divine beings, some will call them light beings, some will call them angels. And certainly spirits of those who have passed. That is often as common or comes before the telepathy knowledge. And all of that stuff was, of course, paradigm shattering.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a nonfiction documentary filmmaker. That was absolutely what is happening. There was like a lot of shots of whiskey along the way, lots of books, just, okay, now I have to read and read to really understand this more. And it's real. It's real, it is happening.
I think her going into this as a skeptic will make people take it more seriously. Hopefully they'll look into it more.
I told you, bro. The CIA have been studying it for years.
What do you make of Andrei Puharich and his program in upstate New York, where he took all these kids who seemed to have high telepathic psi powers, and they would just channel? They would say all sorts of really interesting ontological, cosmological things about how the universe works, and it's hard to say, whether any of this stuff was true. But I mean, I think your research should at least make us relook at that research and say, maybe there was some truth to that. And Puharich is this odd character. He was at Northwestern, and he was kind of tied in with, MK Ultra, CIA brainwashing stuff. And so there seems to be this big gap between that and now we're experiencing this resurgence. And I think you have very different intentions than he did, and then the people around him did.
If they've already experimented with this, why would they keep it secret?
They wanted to use them as spies, bro.
Andrei Puharich is a controversial figure in spirituality and ufology. He was an MK Ultra doctor and was a prominent early proponent of techno-spirituality, or the use of technologies in spiritual and psychic processes. The controversy with Puharich lies in his interest in patenting and creating implants that could be placed in individuals' heads so that they would be able to pick up certain frequencies and messages in their mind. Artificial frequencies and messages within their mind.
Yeah, that's fucked up. But what if they gave one of them kids a Neuralink so they could communicate better?
Nah, bro, you sound like one of them.
Now, from about the 50s to the 90s, the CIA was going absolutely crazy researching psychics. They thought that they could use this stuff for spying. They wanted to remote view enemy leaders, politicians, all kinds of things. They had people breaking sewing needles with their mind and then putting them back together. And I know that sounds crazy, but they took it to even further levels. They would seal up these needles in glass ampules, something that you have to break open to get to the needle. And these guys, through the glass, would use their mind to snap these needles in half and then mend them back together without breaking this thing open. And then they did electron microscope scans of the befores and after, and it's crazy. I mean, really, look at this above my head. That is the needle the first time. The image to the right is after it's been broken, and this image right here, number 3, is after they mended it back together. That does not make sense, and I don't really see why they would make fake articles like this. I mean, they're literally saying in the article, this is not going to work for anything government, espionage, military related, but this is fucking crazy. That is all this article says. Now, this article was pulled from laboratories in Beijing, and when the US tried to do this on their own, they had insane results, and that is a lot of what started the studies of psychic people. This was one of the first things that kicked it off. A lot of it had been going on, and we understood there's some weird things with consciousness, but this is what got the government finding children who could do this stuff.
This sounds like something out of Stranger Things.
That's because it was based on MK Ultra, bro. But we'll have to save that for next time.
Hold up, Ted, we've got to do the giveaway.
If you want to win some of our merch, leave a comment for a chance to win in our next episode. Let's do this, bro.
Bang, bang.
Lap, lap.
Pick something from our merch store and we'll send it straight out. We're working on the Talking Ted plushie. It's going to take 4 to 6 months to produce. So we're thinking about dropping some vinyl figures in the meantime. What do you think?
We've got a poster with worthy enemies dropping real soon.
And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.